We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Thursday, July 18th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and this is News Generation. Today, we're joined by Cheska Dainha.
Happy Thursday, everyone!
Welcome back!
Yay!
Happy Thursday! And Brooke Prince.
Hello, nice to be here.
Lovely to have you. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online. Starting off, the Danish government has partially lifted its recall decision on Korean food brand Samyang's 불닭 or spicy chicken noodles. Initially, 3 flavors were recalled, but the order has now been scrapped for 2 of them. According to Samyang Foods, the company submitted a rebuttal to the Danish Veterinary and Food Administration, highlighting errors in the administration's capsaicin measurements. Korea's Ministry of Food and Drug Safety also dispatched an on-site response team to Denmark, prompting a reassessment of the products. This decision comes a month after Denmark initially pulled 3 불닭 noodle flavors from shelves, citing concerns over extreme spiciness and potential health risks. Seoul City started accepting applications yesterday from residents interested in hiring housekeepers from the Philippines. 100 housekeepers will participate in a 6-month pilot program beginning in September, offering childcare and household services. These housekeepers have undergone 780 hours of relevant training, are fluent in English, and have a basic proficiency in Korean. Eligible applicants include households with a child aged 12 or younger, or those expecting a baby, with priority given to single-parent households, dual-income families, and households with an expecting mother. This initiative aims to address the low birth rate, offering a cost-effective solution as the salaries for these housekeepers are lower than current public childcare and housekeeping services. Finally, new data shows that it now takes nearly a year for the younger generation to find employment after graduating. As of May, according to Statistics Korea, it took an average of 11 and a half months for wage and salaried workers between 15 and 29 years old in Korea to secure a job after finishing school. This is the longest duration since data started being recorded in 2004. For high school graduates or those with less education, the job search period increased dramatically from 2.8 months to 5.6. Meanwhile, for those with a college degree or higher, the period slightly rose from 8.2 months to 8.3. Several factors contribute to this trend, including companies' preference for experienced workers and the increasing number of students pursuing higher education. So, here in the studio, as part of the younger generation, do you also agree with these reasons?
Well, hearing you talk about it really took me back to the days of trying to find my first job after graduating.
We all have that moment.
Oh, yes. And I remember it being so frustrating because a lot of the jobs would claim to be entry level, but then you'd look a little closer at the requirements and it would say something like, requires 1 to 2 years of experience. So you're stuck in this catch-22 of you need experience to get a job, but all of the jobs available to you won't give you that experience. So I'm wondering if maybe that same problem is coming into play here in Korea. But I also think that there's just been sort of a change in the mindset of young Koreans lately, in that they are pursuing more independence rather than what might be considered a more stable lifestyle choice. For example, in the past, people really prioritize getting into a big company or working for the government and immediately going into long office hours and things like that. Whereas these days, I think young people are more focused on trying to pursue their own happiness and freedom. And I think that trend is being reflected not just in these statistics, but also in the low birth rate and the pushing off marriage as well.
And we also talked about the rising number of self-employed, those who run businesses among the younger generation. That could be another effect that we're seeing due to these factors. Now, Cheska, I want to ask you, do you think that there are other factors at play as well?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the points that Brooke mentioned. I think the climate is definitely changing in terms of how our generation is picking and choosing workforces. But I think we discussed here in the News Gen, the NEET tribe is also increasing. So a lot of the times people are also trying to take on multiple part-time jobs and trying to sustain their living and try to spend their own lives doing what they want to do. And I think another thing is, which is particularly, characteristic of our generation, is that we really like to explore options other than just the traditional workforce. So people are either traveling more or even trying to earn living by vlogging. or even like trying to do something that they enjoy and then make a living out of it. So I think they're swaying away from the traditional workforce and trying to find something that better fits their needs and wants.
Right. And talking about need tribes, just a sneak peek, we're going to talk about the rising number of need tribes here in Korea next week here on NewsGen. So please stay tuned for that too. And that was our news feed for this Thursday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Today we're going to talk about the recent changes to Seoul City's recycling and waste separation policies. Now, we're a show that loves pop quizzes and mini tests. So we're back with our mini tests. It's been quite a while. So I'll give our panel some examples and please raise the O or X sign depending on whether you think the item is recyclable or not. Okay, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's get right into it. So number 1, snack packaging with crumbs on it. 1, 2, 3. So Cheska chose O, Brooke chose X. Let's listen from Brooke. Why?
Well, because I thought that if there is any kind of food packaging that still has food left in it that's hard for you to remove, then that should go in general waste.
I see. Now we'll tell you the answer in a short moment. Moving on to our second question, number 2, plastic bottle labels, are they recyclable? What's your answer? You guys both chose O.
Yes.
Once again, we'll tell you the answer in a moment.
Yep.
And number 3, this may be kind of tricky, plastic twines.
Oh.
What's your answer? 1, 2, 3. So Cheska chose O, Brooke chose X. Divided answers. Why?
Well, this past weekend, I actually threw a birthday party for my best friend, and I rented out a party room and filled it with balloons and gifts, and there was a lot of ribbon and plastic twine and things like that. So at the end of the party, when I had to clean up, we had to separate all of our trash, and I put the plastic twine and the ribbon and all of that.
Did you?
I put that in general waste. This is a hopeful answer. I'm hoping that I did the right thing. So I
Hopefully
guess I'll
X.
find out with the answers.
Right, now to the answers. I'm very sorry, Brooke.
Oh, no.
These 3 items weren't recyclable until last month. So when did you have that party?
It was on Monday, so I guess I'm so sorry I did it wrong.
Well,
2
it's
weeks,
okay.
yeah.
We are here to like learn, so
Yes,
definitely
yes.
okay. So these items are recyclable starting this month with the Seoul City government expanding its recycling criteria. Now, Cheska, I noticed that you got all 3 answers right, so congratulations. I think that you are an expert in recycling or waste separation.
Thank you.
So could you please tell us more about Seoul City's updated recycling and waste separation policy?
Absolutely. And just before I start, I also had to study these because as we will discuss further, the recycling rule in South Korea is very complicated.
Indeed.
So as we have seen in the mini test we just took, Seoul City did expand to include more categories for recycling. So let's take a look at the screen to see the full list. Now, if we take a look at the screen now, as we mentioned, the twine is also included in the list, as well as candy and food wrappers, the plastic bottle, the labels, and we go from the 1 to the 12 categories of the things that we didn't know were able to be recycled included in the category.
Right. So as Cheska just mentioned, this is part of Korea's strict recycle and waste disposal regulations, and waste sorting is important as it is indeed the first step in the recycling process because it helps us separate recyclables such as plastics, metals, paper, and glass from non-recyclables. So Brooke, for our international viewers, could you please explain more about some of Korea's key waste separation and recycle policies?
Sure, although I'm not sure I'm qualified after those quiz results, but I will try to share my knowledge from the past 8 years of living here. It's not exactly intuitive. There is a lot to learn. A lot of foreigners, when they come here, they just think, oh, I can use my typical black garbage bag and just throw everything in it, but that is not how it goes in Korea. There are official plastic bags for each district, so you have to buy and use the ones that are exclusive to your neighborhood. And that applies even if you move. So I'm very sorry, but if you buy in bulk a bunch of garbage bags and then you end up moving, you cannot use those same bags in your new residence. As far as which bags you need to buy, there are general waste bags and then food waste bags. Now, the food waste bags I actually think are a great idea because they really help you to visualize how much food you're actually wasting, which I think is hard to do, to actually imagine when you're just throwing everything in one bag. When you have to see it by itself, you really realize, oh, I need to be utilizing my ingredients more efficiently. So I think that's great. Those are the two types of bags mainly. And then for all of your recyclables, you can put them in any plastic bag, or if your apartment complex has designated bins outside, then you can sort your recyclables that way. Now notice I've been talking for quite a while and I still have not scratched the surface of the garbage rules here in Korea. For example, with the food waste bags, you might be able to crack an egg inside of that bag, but you cannot put the egg shell in
they're
the
the
bag.
hardest part.
Yep.
You can throw away your leftover chicken, but if there are bones in it, you cannot do that. If you want to throw away large electronics, you can't just put it outside to be collected. You have to go to your local government office, get a special disposal sticker, make an appointment to have someone come and get it. You get the point. It is very, very complicated and it can be inconvenient and hard to get used to, but it does feel good to be contributing to a reduced carbon footprint here in Korea.
It is indeed. Now we are talking about the recycling and waste separation policies here in Korea. So back to you, Brooke. How do these rules kind of differ from that of other countries? For example, your home country, the United States.
Well, it was definitely an adjustment, and that's not to say that Americans don't recycle at all, because some of them do. Many households, even in my own family, decide to recycle, but it's not as widespread as it is in Korea, and it's certainly not as strict or as complicated. And that's because we don't have a national law that requires us to recycle. It's decided by the state. And while there are a few states that do mandate recycling, I would say overall as a country, it's more of a moral choice. Whereas here in Korea, it is an obligation.
Yes,
it is a
mandatory.
requirement.
Right.
You can be punished, you can be fined. I have a friend who was sent pictures of the things that she didn't sort correctly and she had to pay a
That's
small
what I'm
fine.
scared of every time.
Yes, so the stakes are much higher here in Korea, but it's paid off. Korea has double the recycling rate of my home country of the United States, which I believe Cheska will now elaborate on for us.
Now to you, Jessica. So has Korea's recycling policies been effective? Do we have any stats?
Yeah, in Korea, I think the recycling system started way back in the 1980s, and it was first implemented. And in '95, we adopted the so-called 종량제 system.
Right.
So simply put, we're putting taxes based on the volume of garbage to actively decrease or limit the number of trash produced. And since then, as Brooke mentioned, Korea has actually been a leader in recycling. As we all know, we have guidelines for not only recycling, but also food disposals as well as recycling metals and electronics and even house furniture. And according to the stats, we rank number 2 with about 62% in recycle rate in the world for recycling, and with number 1 being Germany in the leader. So we're doing pretty well, I suppose.
I know.
And compared to the US and Japan, which lingers around the 30s, I would say it's a pretty high figure. And I believe, given that a lot of other countries try to emulate our system and try to incorporate the kind of recycling system that we have also.
Right. It's kind of good to see that our hard efforts are paying off.
Oh, yeah, I'm really proud, to be honest.
Right. And now, as we mentioned before, we're talking about the recycling and waste separation policies here in Korea. But now to expand our discussion, we also asked our viewers about waste sorting and recycling policies in their countries. And here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, Benny says in the Philippines, some malls are making efforts to separate waste collections by separating the biodegradable and the recyclable waste. Leon says Singapore has a relatively straightforward waste separation system. Most households only need to separate their waste into 2 categories, recyclable waste and general waste. Jesse says in Alabama, there is a container for trash and a separate one for all recycling, but each country and each state handles it differently. So through our comments, we took a look at some recycling and related policies in other parts of the world. Now bringing our discussion back here in Korea, it's often said that the younger generation, us, we're particularly passionate and adept at waste separation and recycling. So as part of this generation, do you agree? And if you do, why do you think that is?
I've noticed that we have a term called MZ코, which I didn't know until I researched about this topic.
Me too.
Which is a combination of MZ with eco. So we are very, very active, and while it is an inherent characteristic of our generation to actively find ways to make the world a better place, I suppose that especially here in Korea, we are actually taught and educated from very early on to recycle.
I remember.
Right? And I think Eugene would remember this. And when we were in kindergarten, I remember we used to have these little juice boxes during lunchtime, and the teachers would tell us, now go, recycle, find the right bin.
Yeah, and put your food waste specifically here.
Exactly. And then
Never had that experience.
Didn't mean to isolate you, but I felt like it was something.
That's very interesting.
And then as you go up in school, you also get tested on how to recycle.
Wow.
And you actually study these in your topics. So I think education definitely plays a big part. But I think environment also plays a very crucial part in that, as Brooke, you mentioned, in every apartment, every offices, like every house that we go to, they have a designated spot for recycling.
Right.
And even warning signs for being penalized and CCTV cameras that say if you don't recycle,
You'll be fine.
you'll be fine, you'll be tracked. So I think all of these combine, both education and the environment, and even the morals that people have, I think really fosters this environment to know that recycling and saving the environment is actually very important.
And related to this, I think we recently talked about that report that researched millennials and Gen Zs in Korea that showed that the top two concerns of millennials and Gen Zs were actually climate change. So this may be another reason why our generation is so passionate about waste separation. And as related laws and policies become stricter, I've heard that there are new unique services that help people dispose their garbage properly, right, Brooke?
That's right. So I did some research on this, and although I have not witnessed one of them myself, I've heard that there are these new smart waste separation machines that are being installed all over Seoul. And the idea is to turn your trash into cash. So all you have to do is scan a QR code using a waste separation collection app, and then you insert your trash, whether that be a can, a bottle, a paper package like a juice package, something like that, and then you can earn points.
Ooh,
and those
really
points
nice.
will turn into cash. So they're hoping that by doing this, of course, people love money. They're very incentivized by that.
Yep.
They're
motivating.
hoping that they can encourage people to recycle more actively. And also, coming off of what we were talking about earlier, how you guys grew up learning about these things, they are actually installing these machines in schools. So that is to hopefully teach our next generation to also be mindful about the environment, kind of make it fun for them. Recycling is more of a fun, exciting thing with these new robots that are helping you to recycle. And that can really get them started at an early age, developing these good habits.
Right. So to find out how much passionate Korean millennials and Gen Z are into recycling and properly disposing their waste, we're now going to invite a Korean Gen Z into our talks right after the break. Right, so today we're joined by Jung Ji-hye, a Korean Gen Z. Welcome, Jia, to the show.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. So we heard that, Jia, you are very keen on recycling. So as we mentioned earlier in our talks, the first step to recycling is sorting waste. So I want to ask you, do you consider yourself good at separating waste properly?
Firstly, thank you for noticing. I'm just trying my best to be diligent about recycling and sorting waste properly. It's still definitely an ongoing process for me, but I make a conscious effort to separate materials like paper, plastic, and glass to the best of my ability. I believe every little effort helps the environment better.
You know, that's so impressive because as we discussed here in the studio, it's a very complicated process. So why do you think properly separating or sorting waste is actually very, very important?
I believe it's very important for protecting the natural environment. Like when recyclable materials are sorted well, this can be reused in manufacturing processes to create new products. It means we reduce resource consumption and at the same time minimize environmental pollution from waste disposal. Like how amazing if we separate waste properly, like our garbage can become new resources.
Well,
Also,
it's great. Continue, keep going.
Okay, sorry. So as a Korean, in Korean society, it is common practice for everyone to sort and separate waste.
Yes.
So this not only benefits the environment, but also reflects our commitment to following guidelines and being responsible citizen.
It's definitely great to see your enthusiasm. I do have one last question for you. Do you have any tips for properly separating waste, or in other words, finding out what you can or cannot recycle? Because obviously people like me do need help with being educated and learning all of the tips that we can.
Right, certainly. Like, I'm not an expert, but I've learned a few helpful tips for properly separating and waste over time. And it's very simple. The first one is take notes, and second is organize, and third one is keep checking. So recycling can seem very difficult at first, like figuring out whether potato peels go on food waste and onion peels and eggshell in general waste, as you talked before. And to make it easier and get used to, I normally created a printed chart and put it up in my kitchen. So this way I know where my waste should go.
Wow.
And for anything I'm unsure about, I use the internet to research, of course. Like, it's been a learning process. But these steps have definitely made a difference, like how manage recycling at home. Also, I have one another thing, like having a separate label boxes for general wastes, paper, plastic, and others on your balcony. It would be very helpful. Like, using label boxes is convenient and organized to sort your waste properly.
So very
By
inspiring.
following these tips, yes, we all can contribute to more effective recycling, I believe.
Indeed, we can. Thank you for your advice today, Tia. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so the reason why we brought up this issue today, because waste management is a global issue with over 2 billion tons produced annually. So last but not least, what kind of strategies do you think that we can implement to kind of improve proper recycling and waste separation?
I mean, very quickly, I think we really need to adopt the mindset of Jie.
I know.
I mean, the kind of commitment and the responsibility.
So passionate.
Yeah, and the enthusiasm she has for recycling because she knows how her actions would affect. I think that's the kind of mindset that we need, so that whatever strategy that we get, we're able to execute it properly. Yeah.
Right, so number one, a good mindset. And number two, Brooke.
Totally agree with that. Loved her energy. But for the people that maybe don't have that natural
Yes,
passion
yes.
for it, a lot of humans are creatures of habit. We prefer convenience and ease. So I think making the recycling process as streamlined as possible will increase those recycling rates. And also just remember that all of your efforts matter. Every single individual person, what you do matters. It counts. Every little bit counts.
Right, your effort does matter, everyone who's watching our episode today. And that's all from us today, but NewsGen will be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks today to Cheska Nainha
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
and Brooke Prince.
Thank you. Learned a lot.
Thank you. And before we go, a quick reminder that Arirang TV is conducting a program survey, including NewsGen, in order to meet our viewers' expectations. So please visit us at our official website or mobile app Arirang TV for your valuable feedback and take part in a chance to receive Bluetooth earbuds and K-pop merch. Once again, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.